On October 11th, an auto show opened in Bangkok. Thailand is called the Detroit of Asia, with lots of overseas car makers operating in the country. This year's new vehicle production in Thailand was initially projected to reach a record high of over 1.8 million units. But floods triggered by record heavy rain hit the country. Floodwaters were approaching an industrial complex accommodating many Japan-affiliated makers. The complex is about 60 kilometers north of Bangkok. A Japanese firm has a stake in this auto parts maker at the complex. All of the maker's employees work together to pile up sandbags around their plant. This Japanese official says none of the firm's workers are flood experts, and that he is concerned that floodwaters will enter the plant if there are gaps between the sandbags. The plant produces about 500 parts, including brakes and fuel tanks. It caters to Toyota, Nissan, and lots of other Japanese car makers. These companies will have to suspend production if the flooding hits the parts maker, forcing it to halt production. A prolonged suspension would have an impact on other parts makers that escape the flooding. This could disrupt the entire parts supply chain.
If we stop, all the automotive company in Thailand stop. Every company stop because this company and my next door two company have one part to every car in Thailand. So we cannot stop the auto industry in Thailand.
3 days after sandbags were placed around the plant, the floodwaters entered. The water level inside the plant was 2 meters high, and plant operations were suspended. The maker was also flooded with inquiries from clients. An official apologizes on the phone. Six days later, the firm sent a task force to the plant. First, the task force collected submerged products. Usable ones were selected for shipment to car makers. The task force then tried to retrieve metal molds, essential for parts production. A large power generator was brought to the plant on a vessel. It will be used to operate a crane. An official says now that the generator has arrived, he and his colleagues will use it to try to retrieve the metal molds by the end of the day. About 1,000 molds were submerged in all. Heavy ones weigh up to 15 tons. Salvaging them was very difficult as the work took place in water full of oil and chemicals. As many as 84 molds were pulled out in 4 days. Automakers are urging the firm to rescue the molds quickly to resume production. This official from the auto parts maker says his firm is under pressure. He says it may take over 6 months for things to return to normal. Last Thursday, all Japanese car makers were forced to halt production in Thailand. The disruption of the supply chain in Thailand is affecting production in other countries. Toyota has decided to reduce output at its plants in Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, and Honda in Malaysia. A Mazda business partner is worried about the impact of the floods on a new plant it opened in Vietnam last week. It was planning to import many of its parts from Thailand. Mazda Executive Vice President Seita Kanai says the situation is still unclear. He says the damage appears to be spreading and that car parts may soon stop arriving from Thailand.
The floods are also threatening to affect our daily lives. A trading company that specializes in seafood says it's getting calls from restaurant chains and other clients who are worried about their shrimp supplies. This man tells a client he's shipping all the yield will allow. He says he can't ship anymore. Japan imports about 70,000 tons of processed shrimp per year. Half of it comes from Thailand. Trading house official Hirohisa Kagiyama says Thailand is a key source of Japan's food imports. He says not being able to process shrimp for sushi and deep frying could have serious repercussions. The firm has dispatched an employee to Thailand to send back detailed reports on the situation at shrimp farms and factories. The man on the line says another spring tide is coming next week and water levels are already up to the maximum. Kagiyama says the flooding will keep on having a big impact. Wholesale prices of shrimp have risen by 5% since the flooding started. The trading house says prices may rise even more if the flooding continues. Kagiyama says he may have to buy shrimp from Japanese suppliers to meet demand at New Year. He says domestic prices will soar. This major sushi restaurant chain is wary of rising shrimp prices. Shrimp sushi and tempura are so popular they account for 20% of the chain's sales. The chain serves all dishes for less than $1.50 each. It can't easily pass higher wholesale prices on to its customers. Shoji Hayashida says if the flooding lingers on, it will harm his company's business. He says he's very worried.